going to turn this over to Walter, and I think everyone, let's see, I'll make sure everyone is muted. So,
And I'm unmuted.
there we go.
Okay. Uh, I heard a rather good quote the other day. Somebody said, "Never be afraid to be an enthusiastic amateur." And that's basically what I am. I'm not a professional musician, although, I have made money, some money while doing it. I started learning the violin when I was 14. My grandfather was a violin instructor. Played classical music in college. So while I was studying another major, and yeah, when the kids got old enough, and once we had a house and kids and married and all of that stuff, I played in church for about a decade, sort of playing liturgical music. And in the 1990s, I discovered bluegrass music festivals and jam sessions, and that was a lot of fun. And I've always traveled. I was big on traveling. My dad worked for the airlines. My wife is a European immigrant. My job included a certain amount of travel, and I was a busking wannabe. I would go to places and I'd see somebody playing an instrument on the street, and I was like, "That's cool!" And I'd take a picture, and it drop some coins and take a couple of pictures. And I've got photo albums that are just filled with different musicians playing in different places. And I think it was in the winter of 2013, my wife and I went to San Francisco, and we met Robin, who's from Colorado, and she was playing in a downtown BART station in San Francisco. And she was saying, "Yeah, I just do this not so much for the money, but just to build my confidence in playing." And, that made a lot of sense to me, that, just go out, and if you're going to play a contest or anything, start getting out and playing in front of other people. And so summer of 2013, I started doing that. I went and called and asked at the Apple Valley Government Center and said, "Do you have any objections to playing on the street, or me playing? Are there any city ordinances?" And they said, "No, not a problem. If you want to just, put out a hat or something, there's no." And I asked them about the farmers market, and they said, "Well, you got to check with the farmers market themselves, because they sort of run the deal." So I went, asked questions, and I ended up playing nearby. And so that was kind of that back then. And yeah, I think I played for maybe 30 minutes, and that was kind of that was kind of enough. Yeah, I was kind of frazzled after 30 minutes. And that I don't know if I've mentioned, there's like, a friend of mine once said, there's like three types of fun. There's type 1 fun, type 2 fun, and type 3 fun. Type 1 fun is not fun at all. It's, you go up and like standing in front of a microphone and freezing, in front of 100 people, and you kind of walk off the stage. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. If you're channeling sarcasm, that's type 1 fun. Type 2 fun is like, really, your hands are sweating, you're nervous, and you kind of get through it, and you come back and you go, "Yeah, I'm kind of glad I did that. That was kind of fun." It wasn't fun at that moment, but it was kind of fun. It's like, "Yeah, I did that." That's kind of what that first busking session was. It was like, yeah, I played for 30 minutes. Yeah. Of course, Type 3 fun is that in the moment fun when you're interacting with people and it's clicking and you're in it and you got that flow and everything's this is fun. This is type 3 fun. So it's been that balance between type 2 fun and type 3 fun, because you do a lot of preparation, you do all the work, and yeah, you're kind of glad you did it, but sometimes you're actually glad while you're doing it. It's like, yeah, this is really cool. So what have I learned from my last few years of busking, street performing? Well, she was going to talk about repertoire, but I thought I'd say a few things. People like to hear what it is they know. So people are just happy with things that they're familiar with, but everyone is familiar with something different. So if you ask 10 people what's fiddle music, you might just get 10 different answers, because it could be classical, it could be old time, it could be jazz, it could be Irish, it could be bluegrass, but nobody really knows what bluegrass is. It's like, it could be gypsy, it could be gospel, it could be movie themes, it could be romantic, and everyone has a different idea of what real fiddle music or violin music should be. And so I try and fit their mold, but at the same time break it. So I'm usually switching genres, and some people might want to just stick with one genre, stick with what you know, and that's kind of the rule of thumb here. Because you're going to have to memorize the music, and you're going to have to practice it and practice it and practice it, and you got to be comfortable playing it. So play what it is that you know and play what it is that you like, because in all likelihood, if you like some music, somebody else is going to like it too. So, pick up the things that you really like. It's like, I love this piece, this is great. um you know, Work on memorizing it, work on playing it, practice it, practice it, practice it, and then get familiar with that thing that you really love, and maybe even mess with a little bit and see, how can I decorate this. Um, let's see. Switching genres. Oh, another one. If you ever get to play in a band, or if you're gonna go to you're thinking about playing at a contest, uh, going out and busking or playing publicly is like a really good way to practice, because you play things in a practice room and it's a controlled environment, and you're in that closet and you're just going, yeah, I got this. And then you go outside into the real world, out into the great outdoors, and it just falls apart. So getting out and playing in public is really good practice for playing in a band, for playing contests. It's another step to work up towards getting in front of that darned microphone, which is scarier than heck. And then, like I said, practice, 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 because nobody wants, if you're going to go out and play publicly, nobody wants to hear you practice. So you kind of work it out, get out all the sour notes in the privacy of your own room when you feel that you're happy with it, and then take it up the next step, and then take it outside and start working with it. Memory versus sheet music. I prefer to play from memory for reasons I'll probably go into in a little bit. Not everyone, but not everyone is going to be able to play half an hour, or 2 hour of music from memory. Yeah, you can do repeats, like you can get through your half hour and then try another. I mean, that works, especially in a place where people keep changing, because nobody's going to be sitting there for 2 hours listening to you. They're probably going to be there for all of 5 minutes. So repeats a good thing. But still on that topic of not everyone can play from memory for a long period of time, and it, especially somebody like me who sort of grew up with classical music. I was constantly sight reading, and I was having to watch the notes just for as a security blanket at a certain point. And it wasn't until I started getting out into jam sessions and then realized that, oh, I don't need the music. And you gradually kind of work into it after a certain point. But it's a hard step getting away from the sheet music. One of the things that I had to do, I've gotten to the point of the hardest part that I have still is remembering what it is that I know how to play. So I've noticed, like, Dan Radford and even Elmo Wick had playlists of, what is it that I'm going to play? What do I know? And put it on paper. And the key signature, and I mean that was handy for jam sessions as well. It's like, yeah, when they ask me what do I want to play, where's my list? Because as soon as they point at me, I don't know what I know. And if you've got something to fall back on, look a name. And I got to the point where I had to have the first few notes. If I got the first few, okay, then it goes from there. So and then the flow goes that, okay, I've got it now. Once I can get the record in the groove, or the needle in the groove of the record, I can start playing it. It takes a while to get to that point. But I got to the point where I would start writing stuff out in ABC notation, reference Rob Ross's ABC notation. I would take just the first few notes and write them out in ABC notation. So I would have key signature, the name of the piece, and then a few notes in ABC notation. Actually, I can do that. And it looks kind of backwards when I do it here. I've got a few of them written there. Sorry to pull that off on you. Playing alone or with others, it's a bit scarier to play alone. It's not as full of sound if you're playing alone, but it's easier to schedule. You've got a lot more freedom, which kind of works for me. The when, where, what, how long, just you've got that freedom of just picking up. And the violin is a heck of a really portable instrument. I never really realized that until I went to do a gig, or not a gig, but I tried busking with a banjo player, and he's like, yeah, this thing's really heavy. And it's like, that's not heavy at all. You start realizing that the violin is a very portable instrument. And still, though, playing with others, especially band members, it's really nice. It's the next level of, yeah, you sit and you do your practices. You do your practicing alone. You do your practicing with the group. And then you start working on, yeah, well, we're going to run through some of our stuff at on the street or over at the farmer's market or in the park or somewhere. And it's another step of getting out there and getting cycles on the music in a different environment, and a little bit more stressful environment than an actual real-time paying gig. So there's that. Let's see, where to play and getting permission. Well, I would say first try playing in your own backyard. Permission is easy, depending on your domestic arrangements. Hopefully your husband or your wife is kind of okay with that. But if you can get outside and play in your own backyard or front yard, that's a nice step from get outside of the practice room and get out in the front yard, get out in the backyard. Actually, 2020, I was out in our backyard playing, and I found out that the neighbor's kid behind us also plays violin. So we got him out there playing. We haven't played anything together, but it was kind of nice. It was like, oh yeah. And suddenly you get a little bit of a connection going. Let's talk legal. The First Amendment of the Constitution of the United States guarantees freedom of speech and expression. And that expression includes singing and playing music. You have the right to express yourself on public land. However, there are city ordinances. Certain cities have made rules that prohibit street performing. One in particular was the 2013 was the case of Pence versus St. Louis, Missouri. This is not Mike Pence. This is Nick Pence, who's a banjo player. He took the city of St. Louis to court because they had $100 per person, and you had to get a permit, and they had made the restrictions they made it overly restrictive. And so he took them to court. ACLU went and did this, and they won the case, and they rescinded the city ordinance. So it's a kind of a legal case. There are still other cities out there that have requirements and ordinances. So if you're going to play publicly, kind of good to know, just to, kind of not good to be. It's hard to play when you've got shackles on. Private land is another thing. You need permission of the owners. Usually if you're going to play in a store or in front of a store, you need the permission of the owners. So they've got, it's not public land, it's private land. So, but having covered that, I do want to put in a word for parks. I like city parks. Parks are public parks. They're good. They're a nice entry-level location. In 2002, my wife and I bought a newer house, and there were bigger rooms for the kids. And one of the drawbacks of the house that I realized only after we moved in was that I lost my practice room, which was a really tiny space, sort of the cupboard under the steps in the basement. I had that as a little practice area, and I kind of lost that. And I ended up stopping playing for about 5 years. And then when I did pick it up, and the kids were still more or less in the house, I started playing in parks. And when people ask me, well, what are you doing here? Or mentally, the story that I had that I was going to tell people, and if they'd ask me, it was like, well, I'm practicing for a music festival, which I was basically. I was like, I have to practice, and it seemed like a good place, and it kind of worked. And I was kind of surprised one time. I was just out there to practice, not really busking, and somebody dropped $3 in my case, and it was like, okay, I didn't expect that. For a while there, I would go on lunch breaks from work and play at Purgatory Creek Park in Eden Prairie, which was kind of a place where I'd just go, and I would play in the park for. It was a good break from my work. Let's see, March 2020, COVID kind of came along, and I just sort of decided, the heck, I'm gonna push this, and I started going out and playing in the local parks. Governor Walz said, you can go to local parks for exercise, and thought, okay, I'm gonna exercise my violin, and of course it kind of helps if you, especially in March in Minnesota. It was like, okay, I had to have my special gloves, my alpaca gloves with the fingers tips cut off, which made things a lot simpler, but I could at least play down at about 45 degrees Fahrenheit. Let's see, outdoor gazebos. That's another one that's been kind of a for a while. I've been in Befrienders, which was kind of visiting sick people and stuff. And I used to visit retirement homes. And there's Augustana and Apple Valley. I had been there, and I knew some people there. So when I've had a few chances, I've gone and played at the gazebo there, just to as a place to go play. And sort of like Field of Dreams, if you play, they will come. I did the same thing in Crystal. There's my wife had an doctor's appointment in Crystal, and there was a retirement home there, and there's a guy that actually, it's the priest there, has off and on played violin over the years. So this is another place where I'd just go, and if I had some spare time, if my wife was going to be in, she wanted me to drive her over there, it's like, okay, I'll go play. So let's see, empty band shells. If you really want to do the fiddle contest thing, and you like parks, you're okay with parks, you can move it to the next level and try playing in a band shell. The one that I stumbled across first was the band shell over in Bloomington by Normandale Lake. I worked in Eden Prairie, and I lived in Apple Valley, and Normandale Lake was kind of in between, and we used to live in Bloomington. So I would stop there after work sometimes, and I would just try playing on the stage at the band shell there. It was usually empty and open, and it was just playing in a park. And if anybody asks, it's like, oh yeah, I'm practicing for an event, it's just, but it all good. And it was a good way of getting stuff out. The other one is band shell was the Levy Park in Hastings, which is, I grew up in Hastings, so it's just another one, and go and be in an environment where you're at the center of it all. So let's see, busking on streets or farmers markets, ordinances. Yeah, I think I was talking about this before. Different cities have um, different ordinances. I was just sort of looking it up while we were planning this trip. Dodge City, Kansas, they've got a limitation of 70 decibels, which is about what an unamplified violin has. You've actually got more opportunities playing unamplified. There's a few more restrictions when you work amplified. So acoustic, it's kind of nice, but yeah, you're not going to project that far, but maybe you don't want to. It's amazing how far you can project though with a violin, even at 70 decibels. But the city ordinance for Dodge City, Kansas was 70 dB, and I went and tried playing. It was like, okay, that's about what I do. Chicago, Illinois, busking is a big no-no. If you ever go to Chicago, I saw somebody get busted Millennium Park, so not a good thing. Although I did sneak in once into their gardens in one of the suburbs just outside of downtown Chicago, and I did play there once. But then I kept my case closed, so I could say I wasn't really busking. I was just street. Yeah, wow. Santa Fe, New Mexico is $35 to get a permit. Just give them it and unlimited for a year. Taos, no restrictions. Uh, I don't know if anybody wants. I had to look this up once. Dublin, Ireland. If you ever want to play Dublin, um, there's no money involved to get a permit. You just need to know 20 pieces from memory to play Dublin. So if you want to street perform, prove that you know 20 pieces from memory, and you've got a permit to play in Dublin, Ireland. Madrid, Spain is very much like St. Louis. They had a mayor of Madrid. She was like really conservative, and she got really upset at the flamenco singers. They would often sing, just make up their own verses, and some of them were not very good towards the mayor. So she wrote some really strong ordinances, sort of like what St. Louis did. You had to be approved by the government to play, and you had to pay a certain amount. And she got voted out of office. But the city ordinances are still there. So I was in Madrid, and I went up to some buskers and I said, you guys, you know, are those rules still in effect? And he was not too sure what to think of me. So I sort of explained it. And he says, yeah, there's the rules are still on the books, but yeah. So I ended up playing in Plaza del Sol, just without a license, and it was a little unnerving when I saw the cops go by. But I had Pikachu with me. I had a person dressed up as Pikachu, so it was all good. But it was a form of fun type number two. So at the moment it was a little unnerving, but I was kind of glad I did it. So one more for here, ACLU, this is for you. Minnesota State Fair. No busking at the state fair. I did try doing that once, and I did get busted. They just said, I said, well, I'm playing at the contest. I was saying, yeah, you got to be approved to play at a certain location. I was like, okay, so don't I do your research first, Walter. Most farmers markets have somebody in charge, even if, well, let's roll back a little bit. Most of the farmers markets in the Twin Cities area are part of the St. Paul farmers markets, and they have somebody who coordinates all of uh, the performance acts at different places. And there's like Dave and John, and there's a website. If we put something together, we should probably send that out. But St. Paul Farmers Markets has most of the Twin City area farmers markets included in it, and they have somebody who sets that up. That being said, there are other periphery farmers markets which were not within the St. Paul Farmers Market system. So Apple Valley is within the St. Paul Farmers Market. Hastings is not. Farmington is not. Yeah, as you start getting out to Cannon Falls and some of those, they're New Prague, and they are not under. But there you'll usually find that there's somebody on the site, and you can go and ask who's in charge, and explain to them, here's what I do, here's what I play, and is that okay? And usually that's usually okay. I just don't want to step on somebody else's turf, so usually try to avoid when other people are playing. I know that we've got a few guys who play the Minneapolis market over at the Basilica. There's a few people who play the St. Paul Farmers Market, the real downtown St. Paul market. That's kind of a good one. I think I've seen like there's somebody in the center, but I've seen some people sort of performing on the periphery as well. So, ask and try. Practicalities. Hat. Don't forget your hat. So I tried a cowboy hat once. I didn't like it. The sound, it just wasn't me. Suntan lotion, always good. Water good. Especially, I like to dress in long pants, a shirt with a collar, and that I have played in 100-degree heat. It was not. I did it. I finished my water, and it's like, okay, I gotta go. So let's see, case or a hat or a bucket. I used to just use the case until COVID came along, and then I went into our garden stuff and got out a tin bucket. But this past year for Christmas, my wife gave me a collapsible bucket. So I've got, thank you, REI, thank you, Marlene. I have a collapsible bucket, and I've used it now. So let's see, sit or
All right, is that just Walter?
I think so.
Oh, okay. All right. Just gonna say.
Kind of cool.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
Got it. The other thing, I'll bow, acknowledge people, get to kneel for kids, get down to their level. That's actually the fun part, is playing with little kids around. And then the whole reason I was talking about playing from memory is making eye contact, actually engaging with everyone around you. And here's the hard one, is smiling, because sometimes I'm playing like this, or playing like this, and it's like, okay, working on playing with a smile and looking at people, and that gets to be fun. It gets really easy with kids though too, when they react back. I've had some requests that I could not fulfill. People have asked. That I had one guy not that long ago say, can you play Vox Perdita? I said, no, but, and I was going to say Vox Cello Suite 1, but he said, well, you'll get more tips if you play that. And I was like, okay, this is, I know this kind of person, and don't let them bother you. don't let them wear you down. I've had The Devil Goes Down to Georgia requested a number of times. Sorry, don't do that. Orange Blossom Special. I should probably learn a version of that. Yeah, that's kind of like I might just requests I could fulfill. The one that I usually get is, there's this one tune that I heard on TV. It's a Civil War tune. And I was like, yeah, I know it's a Shogun Farewell. It's like, and they're so happy. So that one, Amazing Grace, that's been requested. Happy Birthday, gotta know Happy Birthday, that's been requested. Okay, when I was in college, I absolutely refused because it's just wrong. You cannot play Jingle Bells on a violin. That is the wrong tune. I've been broken of that because I've had kids request. That's the most requested tune by kids at Christmas time is Jingle Bells. So, I have to drop the ego and it's like, yeah, okay. Think like a kid. Anything Irish, I've had that requested. So it's like, yeah. And I was playing Swallowtail Jig once and I had a military area. It was actually 40. Okay. I was doing, as I had somebody request Gary Owen because military community. So Brazilian Immigrant, girl from Ipanema. Big Brazil, that makes the Brazilian immigrants really happy. I also tickled an Egyptian immigrant once playing Miserlou. So another really good tune. So Fiddler on the Roof. I've had somebody request that. And thankfully that was like one that I played really early on in high school. So yeah. And actually this is the fun one. Recently I had a girl come up to me, a 12-year-old girl, and she was channeling my daughter Nadine. She comes up to me and she goes, play something sad. So there's a piece I know, Lacuna. It's a Phrygian scale. It's a piece that somebody I know had composed. So I played that and I hadn't even finished. She said, play something happy. So Pig Ankle Rag right there. I caught a little bit of and then she was just back to this is my daughter Nadine.
Oop, I think Walter froze up us. You're freezing up as us occasionally, Walter.
Oh,
You have to
okay.
finish the story. So she wanted something sad and then something happy.
Something happy, something sad, and then something angry.
Oh, what did you play for angry?
I played Paint It Black
Okay.
by the Rolling Stones.
Good for you.
Yeah. So yeah, having a wide variety of different genres, you can do different things. You've got different emotions that you can be playing with. The other thing that different emotions, if for you classical people, you had concertos. Your first part is usually like andante or allegro, and then you get into the second part, which is usually grave or largo, and then you go vivace at the third part of a concerto. And what you're doing is you're taking people through an emotional ride, and you can do that with you can't just constantly be playing waltzes. You got to kind of mess it up a little bit. It really stood out for me once. I was playing Schindler's List, and then followed it up right away with Snow Deer, and I actually saw a couple just start just jiving with it, and I realized that I just popped their emotional clutches. That all of a sudden they went from death and destruction to yeah. And it's fun to see that. So let's see. Don't forget kids' tunes. Something that kids like. She'll be coming around the mountain. I like to do it with like a little whistle, train whistle kind of sound effect. Somewhere over the rainbow. Like if they've seen Wizard of Oz, Lion Sleeps Tonight. If they've seen The Lion King, What a Wonderful World. I did Cruella de Vil, completely unaware that a new Disney movie had come out over Halloween. That was a big hit. So, find things that kids like. The Itsy Bitsy Spider, just simple stuff can actually really impress little kids. And that it's kind of that's kind of the type 3 fun, is when you've got the little kids that are they've never seen anybody play something like that. It's weird, and they watch you. It's amazing. So let's see, what's the objective? I guess my objective has not been to make money. It's really been about interacting with people. And there's been a couple of TED Talks that I saw. One was by Amanda Palmer. I'm not into her music necessarily, but she did a really good TED Talk, and it was dealing with this whole aspect of, we've gotten the idea that music is something done by, superstars, and it's not something that you see every day. It's not something that everyone does. And there again, it's kind of, you want to break that mold a little bit and say, no, this is it's here. It's a part of the community, and a lot of it is dealing with, you start getting familiar with people in the market. You start getting familiar with the kids. You start getting familiar with the vendors. And it's the one gal running the market, the grandma from the market next door, where I was playing in Hastings, at the end of the year, she said, next year you come back. I was like, okay, good. It's having those connections that really matters. And I think we need that now. Is just getting out and connecting and being with other people, because people have really been closed in with COVID for the last 2 years. So it's good to get out there. I guess there was one other TED Talk. It was James Chatfield. It was British, as Welsh, actually. And it was basically about going out and street performing and daring to do it. So, the more you do, the more you dare to do. And I guess I'd finish with saying, never be afraid to be an enthusiastic amateur.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Walter, and thank you everyone for joining us. Hope you all learned. Yes, the round of applause for Walter. So, Walter, enjoy the rest of your vacation in California, and let us know how you're busking. You do the very good job of continuing to post. If you follow Walter on Facebook, you'll see all of his busking adventures. So, and you'll know how much he really does do. It's like just about every day. Enjoy the rest of enjoy the rest of your time on vacation, and we'll catch you back here uh, in March. So thank you so much, everyone, for coming, and we'll catch you at the next session.